Hi, Simit. Hello, Simit. How are you doing? We welcome you to this chat with the Film Caravan. Flix Matrix is the marketing vertical of Film Caravan. And we are having a looking forward to this conversation with Simit Bhagat, who is the director of his film In Search of Bidesia. That's gone live on MUBI. Guys, do check it out. Simit, over to you. Do tell us more about the film and what it's about.
First of all, thank you so much, Namrata, for having me here. And yes, it is a big day that the film has gone live today on movie, and it is also the film of the day. So yes, this film is basically about like Bhojpuri folk music, and like what we are trying to do in the film is basically exploring the connection of Bhojpuri to the history of India and indentured migration. So generally, when we say Bhojpuri music or Bhojpuri language, the first thing that comes to people's mind in general is those cheesy songs and the vulgar lyrics that you often find. And unfortunately, that has become like the main association, or people associate that with Bhojpuri, music. So what this film basically tries to do, like, is to present a different side of it, where we talk about like a beautiful oral culture which has been passed on for centuries now. And at a time when people did not have any other modes of communication, whether it is mobile or television, how people reflected their thoughts, how they what were the modes of expression, and it was essentially the folk songs. People express themselves through songs, and these songs are about various kinds. These are songs of the season, these are songs of day-to-day life, these are songs of love, these are songs of migration and longing and separation, and so on. So yeah, this film is basically looking at stories of five musicians who are singing Bhojpuri music, but they are singing very different kind of Bhojpuri music, very different like genres of folk music, if you like.
So you said this the film is about five musicians. So are those five musicians representing a different kind of music?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. So Bhojpuri folk music has various like genres, or you can call it subgenres, whether it is Kadri or Chaiti or Jatsar, or Baramasa. Each of them like are sung at a certain time of the year. When there is सावन के मौसम में एक certain kind of songs गाए जाते हैं. जब पहले पुराने टाइम में जब महिलाएं ज्यादातर पिसाई का काम करती थी, when they are grinding grains.
It's a sewing. Yeah.
They are grinding grains.
Grinding, acha.
Yeah. So they used to use a manual stone grinder called a jata. We don't get to see that anymore here. And that process is very tough. It is you require a lot of strength to do that. To make it more fun, women used to sing songs at that time. It is like a circular, like a chakki,
Chakki.
Yes. तो वो गानों को जो है जत्सार कहा जाता है. तो songs are specifically sung when women are grinding grain. तो जत्सार है. तो ये फिल्म में आपको अलग अलग तरह के भोजपुरी फोक म्यूजिक देखने मिलेंगे, जिसमें जत्सार है, कजरी है, बारामासा है. And while again, like I said, they are all about they are all Bhojpuri folk music, but they are very different kinds of music. And interestingly, this music kind of changes as you go in different districts. So while a singer from UP may be singing Kajri, the same song may be sung in a different way in, let's say, Bihar, for example. So that's the beauty of folk music, that it is music of the people, it is music of the community. And जिसको जिस तरह से लगता है वो अपने उसको adopt करके they sing it in their own way.
Yeah. So Simit, did you know about all this? It's like, were you connected to Bhojpuri music in any way?
Not at all. So I'm like very much a Bombay boy. Yeah. Like born and brought up in Mumbai. I had no connection to Bhojpuri region whatsoever until like 6 years back, maybe. So the first time I went to UP in one of the remote villages for a work assignment. I came across this group of musicians, and they were performing locally. गाँव में ही वो play कर रहे थे. And I was curious because I listen to a lot of music. I listen to different kinds of music.
Yeah.
So I checked with them as to what is it that they are playing, and they told me that this is ये Bhojpuri lok geet hai. So I was
Oh,
taken aback. I was like, oh, ये क्या है? मतलब this is so beautiful, and I didn't know much about it. Generally,
yeah.
when we talk about folk music in India, you would talk about music from Kutch or Rajasthan ka music, या Bengal se baul sangeet. But not many people know about the beautiful folk forms of
Yeah.
music in Bihar. So when I heard that, I was absolutely stunned, and I was like fascinated with the sounds of it, and then came back to Bombay, and but somehow that music sort of stayed with me over the next 1 year. And like the moment I got a chance, like while I was transitioning into a different job, I took a 1 month break just to travel across UP and Bihar and explore, what the thing that I had heard. जो glimpse मैंने सुना था वो एक दो गानों के माध्यम से. I wanted to know more, like, what are these songs? What are they singing about? Who are singing these songs?
Yeah.
So that is essentially how I started this, and I basically took, like, I went on a bike trip across UP and Bihar. So kate kate, matlab, like 15-20 din was the first trip that I did across 1200 odd kilometers. Like, uh,
Alone. Alone you
alone.
did.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So that was
Wow.
the start of the film, and I met so many people, like folk artists who shared, their music. They welcomed me, and yeah, that is how the journey of the film actually started.
Wow. So I was also like, reading about, the whole In Search of Bidesia, like, how it, what is the topic, and, how, of course, it's about Bhojpuri folk music, but how did it really originate? Like, how did it start? I think there's a history behind, these musicians and their families, like how it all began. So, and it's kind of, I think it began from the British era, was, that was like the
Yeah,
starting point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it goes even before that. तो जनरली हमारे यहाँ पे कल्चर में जो है, like everything is an oral tradition. तो पहले के टाइम में even stories were told orally. There never used to be
Mm.
written records of it like that came
Passed
in much
on like
later.
orally. हाँ.
करेक्ट करेक्ट करेक्ट. तो उसी तरह से ये जो अलग अलग गीतों के फॉर्म्स है, लोक म्यूजिक का जो प्रकार है, तो ये भी ओरली मतलब पास ऑन हुआ फॉर मेनी जनरेशन.
Yeah.
And during the British time, during the British Raj in India, like around early 18th century, they were looking for people to work as cheap labor on their plantations and coffee
Yeah.
estates, and across their colonies, across the world, whether it is Fiji, whether it is Mauritius, South Africa, and the Caribbean islands, and so many other places. So that's when they were experimenting with various cultures, whether it is Chinese, and later they realized that Indian labor was very good to work on their plantations, and it was called like the Great Experiment, where essentially they signed contracts with people. It was called indentureship, where they signed people up for 5 years to work on
Okay.
specific plantations in various
Plantations.
colonies.
Hmm.
And these were mostly people who could not, like small, like farmers, like from very remote villages who could not read or write,
Read
and
already.
they did not even know what they were signing up for, and they just put their thumb impressions and they were off to countries that they had not even like heard about. Uh, so that is how it actually, like a lot of Bidesia songs, like a lot of songs of migration kind of originated from, because what happened was it was mostly the men folks who migrated, and the women were left behind.
Yeah.
And this is at a time when there is no other mode of communication. There's no cell
Yeah.
phone, no telephone. There's no. So you like imagine for a woman like whose husband has migrated to a far off land. She does not even know whether he's going to come back or not, or
Come back on home.
where he has gone to, for instance. Right? But she's still waiting for him to come back. So a lot of songs were written about this pain of migration. कि महिला जब घर पे मतलब है, शी डजंट इवन नो सिंदूर माथे पे है, बट पता नहीं कि
Yeah.
उसका जो पति है
हाँ,
वो है भी या नहीं है.
है भी या नहीं.
But life still continues for her, and so she would express her feelings through the song. You know, that was the only way for her to express her feelings, what she was actually feeling. So you would find a lot of these songs about this pain of separation, about this pain of migration.
So they were basically tricked.
Absolutely. तो उनको लगा कि मतलब like the people who got them to migrate, they promised them a lot of things,
How sad.
but unfortunately when they went there, they realized that things aren't as great as what they
As
promised.
promised. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, a lot of people did not even know some of these countries. So for example, Mauritius, a lot of people could not even pronounce their name. They would call it Marit Tapu, for example,
Okay.
or Suriname, for example, like which was like a part of like Netherlands. They would call it Shri Ram, Shri Ram की यात्रा पे जा रहे. तो ऐसे काफी सारी स्टोरियां थे जहाँ पे
Hmm.
लोगों को पता भी नहीं था कि वो कहाँ जा रहे हैं. And because these ship journeys were really long. They thought
Yeah.
that
Your poster is like, saying that only, that they promised us 3 days. No,
yeah,
6 hours.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of people were promised कि हाँ आप जल्दी ही पहुंच जाएंगे, मतलब एक दो
हाँ.
दिन का सफर है. But when they actually got onto the ship, they realized that journey is never ending. And for many countries, it took more than 3 months to reach a certain place.
Reach a certain.
And so matlab, once you're on the ship, you have no other option because you can't
Yeah.
like you don't have the
Yeah.
come back, right?
आप हाँ उसको छोड़ के मतलब उतर नहीं सकते, आपको करना ही पड़ेगा वो जर्नी.
Exactly. And even if you decide to leave, you have no means to go back and pay for the return fare.
Yeah, true.
Uh,
So, Simit, I just was wondering, while you were talking, while, doing research and, making your documentary, like at some point, did you feel like connecting with, or could you manage to connect with any family who had migrated or, abhi wo wahan settled hai? And, did you come in contact with anybody?
yeah. So interestingly, like while my like when I was doing this film, I was still in a job. I used to work with a UK foundation, with a UK international agency. And thankfully, as a part of my job, I was in London.
Okay.
So I, like as a part of the film, I did some research at an archive in Britain, and which gave me access to a lot of material,
Okay.
lot of photographs. So you like part of
Yeah.
the film, it uses archival footage, like
Okay.
archival sort of photos. Yeah.
Okay.
So a certain part of the film is completely black and white, where we are using like archival footage and overlapped with songs.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely. In fact, interestingly, like you would see so detailed like archives and so detailed records. So, for example,
Hmm.
a British officer in India is writing to a British officer in Mauritius, for example, that in this ship I'm sending you, 100 kilos of rice, for example, 100 kilos of sugar, like 128, like people out of which 60 are men, like the rest are women. Very detailed records of it,
Acha.
and
Oh,
you still
wow.
have them at the archive there. Yeah. So and also during like while I was filming and while the project was kind of growing, I connected to a lot of people from the diaspora countries. So a lot of people
Hmm.
reached out to us, saying that this song or this culture is not just relevant to people in UP and Bihar or like the Bhojpuri speaking people, but it is exactly our heritage. So people writing to us from Mauritius, people writing to us from South Africa or Guyana or Trinidad,
Acha.
because these are people essentially from UP and Bihar who have migrated there, right? And these are like the next generation of people.
Yeah, I mean, now that you're talking, I'm beginning to, my very close friend, her mother's side of the family are all in Mauritius. and she is like, her surname is Roy, and she's also has family in Bihar. So now I think I'm making a connect, but probably she also doesn't know. So this, I mean, wow, this is, and they did settle in Mauritius and Fiji Islands, and all those places, not just the British, not just UK, but British colonies that were occupied by British ones.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
wow, that's
You look at, I don't know if you follow cricket, but growing up, I used to always wonder, like in the 90s, why the West Indian team has so many Indian names. There is
yeah,
Shivnarayan Chanderpaul, there is Ram Naresh
yeah,
Sarwan, Darren
yeah,
Ganga,
absolutely.
and
Wow.
so many of them. And I used to
Food for
wonder
thought.
that, yeah, and I was in school and I used to wonder that why these are Indian like names, or these are Indian like people, and they look like Indians, and why are they playing for the West Indies? I used to
Why are
wonder,
they playing?
yeah. And it was much later that I discovered about this whole history, and because each of them, they are descendants of indentured migrants.
Wow.
Yes, Naipaul for
So,
that matter.
I was also reading about you, Simit. You uh, are a screenwriter, you are a director, and there's something that is written about you, saying that you're a social development practitioner, which I particularly got, encouraged by, and of course impressed. So you gave up your job and in a international NGO, like you just mentioned it, and went into filmmaking. So was that like a very organic sort of decision, or it was difficult for you to make that transition?
No, actually, like if I look back, I realized that I have been switching professions every 5 to 7 years. So
Sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear that.
yeah, so I was saying that when I look back, I realized
Yeah.
that I have been switching professions every 5 to 7 years. Uh,
Sure.
so I started off with a journalist. I started off as a journalist with the Times of India in Mumbai. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I took a break, went to UK to do my master's,
Right.
and that's when I
Right.
switched over to the development sector, to the NGO
Right.
space. And I've been working with various agencies, with various not non-profits in India and
Right.
outside. And it was in 2019. While I was doing all the jobs, I was also making films on the side, like short documentaries. And that was
Huh.
something that I was always fascinated with, to tell a story through a visual medium.
Yeah.
And it was in 2019 that I thought, okay, I've done enough jobs and it's time to do something of my own and time
Wow.
to pursue this full time. So yes, it was organic in a way, but it was
Right.
also like thoughtful. It was also planned, and yeah, it looks like it. I mean, it seems to have worked out.
Wow. So, your initiative, like your this film has gone off to prove a larger sort of cause, to form an NGO called the Bidesia Project. So I think you did a great thing by quitting and becoming a filmmaker and pursuing your dreams, because not only did you create a beautiful film, but you also went ahead and created value out of this entire project. So do tell us about this NGO that you are currently running. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, while I was making the film and like speaking to people, recording like music, recording songs, I realized that film does not do justice to this work and to this culture that is there, because there's only so much that you can tell in like a 60-minute film or a 90-minute film. But I had recorded so many artists, and some of these songs are really, precious. They are really valuable because it is an oral tradition and it is an oral culture. So I'll give you an example. Like
Yeah.
the character, she's also there in the film. She features in the film called Saraswati Devi. She was 92 years old when I recorded her, and like I like we asked her to sing a few songs, and we recorded some of her songs, and those are also part of the film. And later I showed it to other people, like other folk artists, and none of them seemed to have any idea about what these songs were. And we realized that those songs were actually given to her by her mother. So imagine she's 92 years old. These songs were passed
Her
on to her
mother.
by her mother. We don't know where
Mother.
these songs originate from and how her mother got those songs. Probably she got it from her mother. You know?
Yeah.
And later she was bedridden and she would kind of barely speak. And so I realized that, if I hadn't recorded those songs, the songs would perhaps just go along with her because there are no written records of it. That was the time I realized the value and of what this work needs. I mean, what is it that needs to be done? Because if we really want to archive this, we really want to conserve or preserve this, then we need to archive these songs before they go extinct. Because even today there are very few artists like who know some of the really old folk songs. So that's how it kind of originated because I felt the need that if we don't do it now, then the next generation, I mean, we would be depriving ourselves a lot of
Yeah.
cultural heritage, which has stayed, for all these decades now. Yeah, that's when I realized that the need to archive this music systematically. So under the Bidesia project, what we are trying to do is one is we are trying to archive this music systematically, and secondly also like conserve and promote this music because not many people, even people from like Bhojpuri speaking people, know about a lot of these songs. So how do
Mm.
we like the younger generation? So how do we put this out, in public? How do
Yeah.
we kind of make people
Yeah.
aware that there is
Yeah.
a beautiful culture which is out there, and but not many people know about it. So what is it that we can do to promote this? And lastly, also how can we promote the work of these artists?
Yeah. Very
Because these
important.
are these are
Yeah.
really small artists like working
Yeah.
or doing odd jobs in like remote villages, but they are still continuing that tradition, the tradition of folk music. How do we kind of give them platforms? How do we create platforms for them as well
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
perform and showcase
Yeah.
showcase their work? So yeah, that's essentially the idea of the Videsia project.
Yeah. It's so good that you are working towards giving them a platform, because otherwise it'll be a dying art. It'll be a dying art form. And archiving, of course, of artists who are much higher in age. But I think सबसे जरूरी is that the transmission of that heritage to the younger generation, and to make the younger generation, to assure them कि अगर आप ये करोगे तो भूखे नहीं मरोगे, like you are an artist, like you will never kind of not get work. So I hope that Bidesia project reaches to that level where a lot of people want to follow this tradition and not just the mainstream ones. And of course, मतलब including जो general जो public है, या जो cities में जो रहते हैं, they all associate vulgarity and sleaziness to Bhojpuri songs. And after, I think, seeing your film and really getting to know more about it, it's completely different. It's not even remotely close to what Bollywood portrays Bhojpuri in that light. And I think film में ही when people watch it, जब आप लोग देखोगे, so you will see that one person whom Simit is interviewing, he's saying कि बॉलीवुड कहता है कि ऑडियंस को चाहिए, बट ऑडियंस को कैसे चाहिए, जब कौन देता है ऑडियंस को, जो वो डिसाइड कर सकती है। ऑडियंस को नहीं चाहिए, आप दे रहे हो तो वो ले रहे हैं, आप मत दो ना, लाइक स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट वो मत रखो आप, do justice to this art form, like not kind of trivialize it to suit the needs of a box office or a film, or so I really found that a very strong message of your film.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a common thing that every
Yeah.
time I talk about that we work on conserving Bhojpuri folk music. The first reaction that I get, "Acha, Bhojpuri,"
Bhojpuri.
and I know what they're trying
Yeah.
to like imply, right?
Yeah.
And so then I have to explain that, "Nee, Bhojpuri mein, we are looking at the folk music, which is not what you're thinking."
Yeah.
So there is always that explanation that you have to do, which you don't have to do in, let's say, like Bengali folk music or Rajasthani folk music or Gujarati folk
Yeah.
music. So I'm like, why do we have to do that for Bhojpuri folk music?
Bhojpuri.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And like I'm not even from this region. I am, like I
Yeah.
said, And
जैसे एक जरिया बन जाता है, एक रास्ता बन जाता है सिमित. Like you had to go to that place and you had to take that journey, you know.
right, right. So I at times wonder that, if I am so proud, or if I am so, connected to this language, to this culture, to this music, I only wonder, what other people, like, whose actually mother tongue is Bhojpuri,
Yeah,
like how proud they should be
they
about
should
this
be.
this culture. Yeah.
Anything you want to tell, people who, any message you want to send out to any, like aspiring filmmakers or people who are aspiring to, get into music, or anything that you would want to say, as an artist, as a content creator.
Yeah, I mean, two things I would talk about. So ये फिल्म की जर्नी actually 2017 के पहले से शुरू हुई थी. तो जो आइडिया जो था, the idea came in like 2016, and later 1 year it took to just kind of mull over it, and जब chance मिला तभी first time travel करा. And from 2017 to we are in 2022, so it has actually taken 5 years for it to get completed,
Yes.
to be out there. So there is a lot of patience, there is a lot of work that has gone into it, getting the team also to be motivated and to be like focused कि ये करना है तो ये करना है. There is no backing out, there is no,
Yeah,
you can't get bored midway into the project and into कि अब नहीं करना है. Like you have to be at it. So it has taken a long time. There were a lot of challenges that came in between, but
for sure.
somehow, yeah,
Yeah,
uh, somehow, things kind of fell in place. We just had to
yeah.
kind of give time to it. So I feel that, yeah, if you just stick around,
Stick
like
around.
be at it, yeah,
Yeah,
things will happen. And yeah,
absolutely. Sticking
that's
around is the most important thing, and living true to your dream. Like, you set out to achieve something, to take it through till the end. I think that's what you did, no matter how much time it takes.
yeah, I mean, like I had nothing to lose really, right? मतलब क्या ही होगा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा.
Yeah.
So that was how I looked at it. And the second thing was also like for a lot of younger like filmmakers, like people say कि camera ऐसा होना चाहिए, you need to have big lights, you need to have this, you need to have that, a lot of technical things कि हाँ ये ऐसा होना चाहिए, tech specs ये है वो है, sound recording ऐसा होना चाहिए. But I feel that if you have a good story to tell, and if you have good characters and they have like interesting stories to share, and if you're true to your art form, or if you're true to the work that you're doing, I think it resonates with people. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what is the kind of equipment you have, कि आपके पास fancy camera है या नहीं है या क्या है.
Nahi.
Like if you have a good story, I think you will always like it will always resonate with people.
And what can we expect coming from your side? Something else, something new? Abhi aap, like, what are you planning, Samit? If you can share. Otherwise, we'll
Sure.
wait. We'll wait patiently.
No, so right now, so I also have a creative agency. So we keep
Okay.
making short videos, and so जो like something that जो bread and butter वाला है वो तो चलते रहता है.
Of course, absolutely. वो नहीं होगा तो फिर, then we can't do many things. We need to,
Right.
and we need to take everything till the end. So for that, you need the bread and butter also.
Absolutely, absolutely. And independent, मतलब filmmaker बनना is not easy, because obviously
It's
there
not
is
easy.
no like financially तो इसमें कुछ है नहीं, right? Like it is always you have to end up spending from your own. So
Yeah.
you obviously need to have like a steady sort of something else going on for you. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, but in terms of next project, I actually finished a film on the tribal culture in
Okay.
Maharashtra, in Gadchiroli.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
yeah, so that's another feature which is like almost nearing completion. There are some
Excellent.
technical things which are left, but yeah, I hope to kind of complete that soon.
That's so good. We're so looking forward to seeing something else coming from your side, because what you created and what it has become is, truly praiseworthy. Thank you so much, Sumit, for talking to us. And we wish you the best for In Search of Bidesia and for all your future projects. And keep doing good work and, living true to the social development practitioner that you are. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
Yes.
you.